Welcome to beautiful Newport Dunes here at our restaurant at Back Bay Bistro. Today, we're going to start doing our classics. We're going to introduce classics on Wednesday and Thursday night. Dishes that we may not have seen, but we all know. Today's recipe is Coquille Saint-Jacques, an intimidating name, but one of the easiest recipes you can imagine. It consists of scallops, mushrooms, white wine, cognac, lemon, onions, salt, flour, cayenne pepper, butter, Gruyere cheese. If you don't have Gruyere cheese, Swiss will work out fine. Panko breadcrumbs, a large flake breadcrumb, not a fine, has a little bit of texture to it. So the very first thing you want to do is preheat your saute pan. And we're going to take our base scallops, put them into a mixing bowl or a bowl, one portion. And then we want to season it with kosher salt, a good amount of the salt. You don't want to over salt it, but you do want to have enough of it. Flour. The flour is going to coat the scallop, so when we saute it in the clarified butter, it gets a nice coating on it. Then we want to put a little bit of cayenne pepper. Not too much. It's always easier to add more than it is to take it out. The cayenne pepper is spicy, and you only want to use a little bit of it. Mix it up. Add our clarified butter to our pan that's been preheated. Trick is you don't want a cold pan. If you get a cold pan, you'll get mushy food. And now you want to put it in a preheated saute pan with the clarified butter. Add the seasoned scallops right to it. That's the noise you want to hear. Most people overcook scallops. A base scallop does not need a lot of cooking. My favorite sushi happens to be a spicy scallop roll, which is a raw scallop. You can eat scallops raw. You can eat them fully cooked, but most people tend to overcook scallops. Scallops are a really quick cook, which these are almost done. And in here, we are going to add white wine. A common phrase called deglazing. Deglazing is we put it around the edge, and once the wine starts to evaporate, it gets all the nice pan drippings and stuff off the bottom and incorporates it into the dish. Next step is squeeze in fresh lemon. Try not to get the pits in there. Always squeeze it into your hand. Make sure the hand is used as a sieve. Add the fresh lemon. Then the last thing we want to add is some whole butter to it. The whole butter and mixture with the flour will also give it a sauce, and that's one of the things you want. You don't want to add any more flour to it. There's plenty of flour already on it. Let that cook down a little bit, and again, we don't want to overcook this because this is going to be baked real quickly at the end. As you can see, after adding the butter, the white wine, and the lemon juice, the flour naturally has made this thick. So now that it's got a nice little thick sauce, that we've added the butter, we want to hold this and retain this. The next step is going to be cutting up of the mushrooms and sauteing that. You don't want to add the two together because the mushrooms have a tendency to get real dark once you saute them. So if you saute them with the scallops, the dish becomes dark and doesn't have that nice light color to it. First thing you want to do is put a saute pan on and get it hot. Crucial. Second step, mushrooms. A mushroom comes from the ground. It needs to be washed. So I've pre-washed these mushrooms, and now we're going to slice them. We have a base scallop that's round. Don't want to slice these, you want to quarter them. So you want to take and put them in pieces like this. I also like to take off the stem, put the stem aside, and you get nice pieces of mushroom that are going to be roughly the same size once they're sauteed down. Now that you have the button mushrooms cut, we're going to cut one more, and then we're going to cut a portobello mushroom. Portobello mushroom, big mushroom. You want to take out the stem with a spoon. We're going to do what's called venting a mushroom, which all it is we're going to take out the vent parts. If we don't take this out, this will bleed throughout the dish and make it very dark and a little bit bitter and not the greatest flavor, which is not very hard. Now that we have this vented, we are going to cut it up. Again, we want to have it conform to the size of the scallop. Okay, now that we have our mushrooms that are all roughly the same size of the scallops, we're going to add our clarified butter to the saute pan, which is nice and hot. We're going to add the mushrooms. Now initially when you saute mushrooms, the very first thing that happens is the clarified butter now soaks into the mushrooms. As you can see, there's pretty much no oil left in here. So that's why we use the second pack of whole butter. And we add the whole butter to it. That way now, the butter now will actually start sauteing it. You can see how quickly this happens. There's already beautiful color on this. You want to add a bit of kosher salt to that. And then the fun part, which is our cognac or brandy. Now, always want to take this off and flame it. It's important that you flame it. It burns the alcohol out. The alcohol is not a very good flavor when you cook. The actual flavor of the cognac, what made the cognac or what made the brandy is the flavor that you want. By flaming it, we burn the alcohol off and you still retain the flavor. And again, you want to basically saute it almost down to nothing with the juice, which is pretty close. And now that the mushrooms are sauteing, we're going to add the yellow onions that are in a small dice. Add the onions in. Give it a good shake. And now you want to deglaze it with the cognac or brandy. Make sure you take the pan off when you do this because it will flame. Add the cognac, give it a shot, and then let it flame. The reason why you deglaze this, the cognac has great flavor to it, but by deglazing it in the flame, we're burning the alcohol. The alcohol is not a very good flavor when you cook. The actual flavor of the cognac, what made the cognac or what made the brandy is the flavor that you want. By flaming it, we burn the alcohol off and you still retain the flavor. Next thing we're going to do is take our mushrooms off. We're going to put our scallops back on, let that heat back up, and then we're going to add mushrooms to it. But if you can tell you can see the difference in the pan. The mushroom pan is a little bit darker than this. That's the reason why you saute them in a different pan. Put this back on. So all you really want to do with the scallops is just let it get back up to temperature, which will be very quick. And then we're going to take the mushrooms and add it to. Then you want to incorporate this real quickly. And then the last step is we're going to put it into our dish. So a couple things we can do to this part. If you like more butter, you could add a little bit more butter. If you like a little bit of cream, you could add a little bit of cream. The last step we're going to do is we're going to incorporate the Gruyere cheese and the panko breadcrumbs. So we add about a tablespoon of Gruyere cheese into a bowl. We're going to add about the same amount, a little bit more of the panko breadcrumbs. The goal on this is not to have a cheese crust on it, but the cheese with the flavor of the Gruyere cheese or the Swiss cheese, depending on what you use, will accompany the flavor of the mushrooms and the sauce. And then the breadcrumbs will give it a nice color to it also. Now we've incorporated it on the top. Again, it's not coated with cheese. We're not going to get a crust of cheese on it. There's a good amount of breadcrumbs. And at this point, we're going to put it under a broiler and we're going to brown the top. Now that it's been under the broiler, we use a salamander here at the restaurant. But once it's under the broiler for about 2 to 4 minutes, it comes out and it looks like that. And the last step you want to do is garnish it with some fresh chopped green parsley. And that's Coquille Saint-Jacques. Please come and join us here at Newport Dunes at our beautiful Back Bay Bistro, oceanfront. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, we're bringing back the classics. We're also going to pair them with red wine or white wine, depending on the dish. So please come and join us.